Hi, I'm Suki Singh, Area Sales Manager at Practice Plan,
Hi, I'm Iain Stevenson, Head of Dental at Wesleyan Financial Services.
and today we're going to be talking all about partnership agreements. Let's start with the basics. Why is having a partnership agreement so important for dental practices, Ian?
It's absolutely essential, Suki. If I give you an analogy to try and paint the picture, imagine you and I are playing a board game, and we're playing this game with no rules. Okay, we have this board game. We've played board games before, so we should know how it works. But what happens if we get to a point where we don't know what happens next? What do? Do we just make up the rules? Do we guess? So you imagine now running a dental practice and you're going into partnership. So imagine you and I are in partnership and we have no rules. We know how to be a dentist. We're learning how to run a business, but we don't have a set of rules around what we're doing. So if something goes wrong and something changes, and something happens that we don't expect, then we have nothing to fall back on to say, right, this is how we respond. So if you think about it that way, a partnership agreement gives you a set of rules as a partnership. A shareholder agreement is exactly the same if you set up a limited company. What it does is it ensures that in the event of something happening within a practice, so if you want to leave, if you want to retire, if I want to retire, one of us dies, one of us is off sick, we have a set of rules that we turn to and say, right, this is what happens here. If you do that at outset when we set up the partnership, then it just makes it so much more effective and it helps the business run smoothly. If you don't, you can get into serious trouble.
Right, wow. Okay, so really quite an important document then by the sounds of it, from what you've just said there, that practice owners absolutely need to have really and in place. And what does a good partnership agreement look like then? You said there's some rules. What are the essential rules in a partnership agreement?
So there will be a basic kind of template that people would use to start off. But I think it's important to sit down and say, right, okay, how do we want to run our business here? What's the long-term objectives? And what do we want to happen if you want to retire, if I want to retire, if you want to sell the business, if I'm off sick, what actually do we want to happen? What happens to my share of the business if I die? Do you get it? Does my estate get it? So the best thing to do is go through all of the possibilities as much as you can. Sit down with a solicitor and preferably someone who really understands dentistry. Because as you know, it's a very unique role and occupation and business. So to sit down with someone who really understands dentistry and go through all the ifs and whats and maybes and get it on the table, get it agreed, give us a really good platform to build our business and grow our business from there. So use it as a starting point. Think of take advice from the solicitor, but each one will be different. It's not an off the shelf, off the page type of thing. It's the kind of thing that needs to be right for us as a business.
Great. Okay. It sounds like circumstances can change in business, can't they? As we all know. So to that end, I mean, when should they be reviewed? Should it be an annual thing? Or is it when things happen? I'm thinking that maybe things need to be changed and reviewed prior to anything coming along that can have a massive impact, I suppose.
Yeah, that's a really good point. If you wait till something's happened, it's too late.
Yeah.
So ideally, it should be annual. If you've got a bit of time to sit down and say, does this do what we want it to do? Okay, does this still represent us? You're right to say that a business will evolve, a dental business will change over time, and therefore the practice agreement should change as well. And if you can get into the habit of just checking on it once a year, it's not a huge task. Okay, you're just reflecting on, has anything changed? Are our opinions still the same on all of this? Right, fine, move on. But at least give yourself space and time. I would suggest once a year, just to do a quick check, make sure everything's right, run it past the solicitor just to make sure nothing's changed, and that will keep you right. It is as important to review it as it is to set it up in the first place. Again, you and I setting up a business just now, in 10 years' time, it's going to look and feel very different, isn't it? So
Yeah.
you need the partnership agreement to change and move with you, and that's why it needs to be reviewed.
I guess dental practices review lots of things, don't they, on an annual basis, don't they? From the finances to the team to everything else in between. So this just forms part of that process, I think.
Yeah, it absolutely does. There's so much that changes in the world of dentistry for a start, and then everybody's personal lives change. When you think you might want to retire changes, how you exit the business, when you exit the business, how quickly the business is growing. All of that gets taken into account when you think, yeah, the business is going to evolve probably way more dramatically than you think. And what if we want another practice? What if we want to expand? What if we want to extend? So we need the rules in place. We need to make sure it's up to date, and we need to make sure that this agreement evolves with us.
Great, okay. Have you seen any cases where having an agreement or indeed not having an agreement has made a massive impact on a business and the
Yeah,
owners?
unfortunately, yes. There's a number of cases. There's one that really stands out for me where actually it was just a two-person partnership, and two best friends from university decided to set up a practice, and off they went, completely trusting of each other, know each other inside out, as it should be, and off they go. And unfortunately, one of them died. So that meant that, right, okay, what happens to his share of the business? So apart from all the grieving aspects and all the emotional challenge around that, you've got the financial and you've got the logistical issues around, we're running a business here, or we were running a business here. Now what happens? So actually what happened was the person who died, his son inherited a share of the partnership. In fact, a 50% share of the partnership. So that meant that the dentist who's still trying to run the business has a business partner for someone who doesn't know anything about dentistry really. And vice versa, the person, the young chap who now takes over this business, um, doesn't want to be involved in a dental business. He just wants his share of the business. So without the appropriate agreements in place, that's the kind of thing that can happen. And then you're having to solve that puzzle and rewind stuff and come to agreements and raise finance in order to get it all to where it should have been in the first place. So it is very real. It does happen. Things go wrong. There was another one where what I remember one of the partners had an issue around malpractice, and it meant that not having the appropriate agreement in place, the rest of the partners were getting dragged into that situation as well. So you just have to be very careful about what's in it, making sure that it's you're open and honest, and you understand that trying to anticipate as much as you possibly can, because bad things happen, I'm afraid, and this just at a time when you need it most. This underpinned by the appropriate financial products and plans, make sure that you don't get into situations like that.
Sounds like not having an agreement in place then just adds to to already a really difficult time, just that extra stress and anxiety then by the sounds of what you've just said there.
So yeah, if you use that as an example, Suki, what happens is, if again you and I using an example, are in partnership, 50-50 partnership, and it's £1 million business. Okay, so we each own £500,000, and I die. What happens is, who gets my share of the business? Okay, ideally it should be you, but my family want compensation for the share of the business. They're looking for £500,000. Have you got £500,000 to just write a check and get your share of the business? Maybe, but maybe not. Can you raise it? Can you borrow it? Maybe, but do you want to borrow £500,000? So getting the appropriate agreements in place, underpinned by the correct financial planning, means that all of that just happens. It means quite simply you get the right money in the right hands at the right time. So you get to run your business. My family in this case would get to inherit the money that they should, the value of the business, and everybody moves on. And it takes that strain out of what was already a difficult situation.
So if any of the listeners think that their agreement might be out of date, what's the first step, Ian?
So I would be looking for a solicitor who works with dentists, who understands the dental world. And I would be sitting down with them and just having that conversation and asking for a starting point. That's where I would go with it.
Right. Okay. Great. And is it costly to review, or what?
Legal costs are what they are. I think the challenge that I would put back to you is, can you afford not to?
Absolutely.
I've seen a situation where somebody actually, there was 5 partners, and there was they did have a partnership agreement, but it hadn't been reviewed, or they weren't that sure. They couldn't remember what was in it. And they were all roughly the same age. They were all wanting to retire at roughly the same time. And we noticed in the agreement it said that only one person can retire every 12 months. So we kind of looked round the table and said, right, who's going last? Okay, who's going to have to wait 5 years before they can retire? And they had no idea. So yeah, you can't really afford not to. It's really important that it's money well spent, I think, is the best thing I would say.
Well, it's been really insightful, Ian. Thank you. I think, yeah, I hope the listeners have found it as insightful as I have today. So, thank you.
Thank you.